Hey everyone, welcome to Bald Guy Money. Over the past 10 days or so, I've been receiving requests from viewers to address some of the incredible claims about a silver extinction event, the removal of silver from the periodic table, and the impact this will have on the price of silver. Now, to be honest, at first I wasn't sure where all of these requests were coming from until I saw it come up on the David Lynn report, and here's a clip from the video that I'm talking about.
Let me just go back to what you said previously. Silver, we may use silver into extinction. Can you just clarify exactly what you mean by that? Do you mean that we will literally run out of physical silver above ground, or do you mean that industries will start thrifting or perhaps replace silver with a substitute metal, therefore no longer needing silver in applications?
Well, it's a worst case scenario, right? People talk about peak gold, peak oil, and some of those same communities talk about, if they were to envision, an element being, used out of extinction and removing an element from the periodic table, silver is got a setup right now for that, and that's why some believe that the silver to gold ratio isn't going to go back to historic norms or to historic lows. It's actually going to go to new territory. It's going to go to 1-to-1.
Okay, so with that statement entered into the record, I want to break down some of the claims. I want to show you all what I think is true with supporting evidence. On the flip side, I want to show you all what I think is false using supporting evidence and wrap it up with some forward-looking analysis on how silver has performed versus the S&P 500 and how I expect it to perform against the S&P 500 over the coming 18 to 24 months. Now, just before we dive in, I want to remind you all that I personally think silver is the best deal in precious metals today. I said it in my last video, and if you're in the USA looking to add some silver to your stack, or you want some gold for its long-term stability as the best hedge against inflation, don't forget to check out Pimbex.com. I'm certain you will be satisfied with their customer service and just how quickly they can get your order out to you. And that's just apart from their great prices. And for those of you out there who are mature stackers looking to add a little weight to the stack at a phenomenal price, check out these silver bars from Pomp Suisse and the Royal Mint. Direct links to buy them are in the description of this video, and as a bar stacker myself, you can see I have some bars on the table here next to me. I think this well-recognized silver at under $26.50 an ounce for one piece is a great way to get your weight up if sovereign coins are not your thing. So, getting back to the main topic of this video, I want to evaluate the first statement that silver can be totally used up and removed from the periodic table. And let's break this into two parts because it's really two separate claims. And the first one is that silver can be totally used up. So I've brought up some data here on silver reserves from Statista based on geological surveys and have compared it to current demand levels on silver according to the Silver Institute. Now, assuming that demand will remain steady at 1.2 billion ounces a year, even though we know demand is actually growing, and also assuming that all demand has to be satisfied by newly mined silver, yes, it is possible that we could run out of silver that we know about in the ground, because known reserves today are about 550,000 metric tons of silver, which is a little more than 17 billion troy ounces. At an annual usage or demand rate of 1.2 billion ounces, the math speaks for itself. But that calculation ignores one crucial element that anybody in the mining business will tell you about. And that is, as price goes up, incentive to find new deposits, new sources of silver, that also goes up. And with silver price being as low as it is today, which is great for stackers like you and me, that incentive is very low. And in the calculation I have just shown you, we are counting what I would call the low-hanging fruit, the $15 an ounce to pull out of the ground silver. But that is slowly changing because, as you can see, investments from mining companies in finding and developing silver mines has increased significantly to the highest levels, and listen carefully, since 2011 when the silver blow-off top happened, and we were knocking on the door of $50 an ounce silver. So this is not a piece of data or information we should take lightly. And the reason is because it is going to cost a lot of money to find and develop these mines. Mines that are needed to satisfy growing demand on silver. And all of that will ultimately have to be reflected in the price of the metal. Something, if you look back to some of my early 2022 videos, I was saying we could see the early stages of being reflected in the price of silver as soon as Q1 2024, and that date is approaching quickly. So, although I say there is some merit in what was said with respect to running out of silver, I don't think it's a fully honest analysis of the situation, especially when you consider the fact that at some price, which is likely north of $80 a troy ounce, it becomes profitable to start reclaiming silver used in things we are not reclaiming it from today. And although I agree these forces will have upward pressure on the price of silver, I can't get on board with the statement that we will totally run out. Now, if we take that claim one step further and apply it to the statement that silver could be removed from the periodic table, even if we totally use up silver, much like we could totally use up the planet's oil reserve, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It doesn't mean silver stops existing in the universe or our knowledge of it disappears altogether. And that claim that silver can be taken off of the periodic table is absolutely absurd. As you can see here, the only element to ever be removed from the periodic table is didymium. And the reason was because it was not actually a unique element, and we still use it today to tint lenses for protective purposes. Now, moving on to the next point. Can silver reach a 1-to-1 price ratio with gold? To help us with this one, let's start by taking a look at the gold to silver ratio since 1915. I got this chart from Macro Trends, and what I want you to notice first is that the gold to silver ratio has been on the upswing, with gold distancing itself from silver since central banks became net buyers of gold after the 2008 financial crisis. Also, please notice that during silver's two blow-off top events, the first coming in 1979 and the second one in 2011, the closest silver ever got to gold was a 15.1 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold ratio, and that was in 1979 and was only a momentary event. And that 1979 blow-off top is the only time I could find in recent history that we ever got back to the gold to silver ratio used in ancient Roman times, which was approximately 16-to-1. So, from my point of view, there is absolutely no basis upon which to say gold and silver will be at parity. And my position has long been that in another blow-off top event for silver, we may see that ratio go to around 30 or 40-to-1. Which, for those of you who are very familiar with my work, you'll know that that is a ratio that really guides me in my stacking, and I mention it in a lot of my material. But, as I like to remind you all now and again, this is not a place where we look back and complain. This is a place where we look forward and prepare for the future. And in that spirit, some of you requested to see exactly how gold and silver have performed against the S&P 500 since 2000. So I thought I'd share this data with you all and also show you what I think this could look like in the not so distant future as the market continues to correct in line with how I said it would. And just as a brief for those of you who didn't watch my video from 2 weeks ago where I gave away 2 gold coins, what you're looking at here is a breakdown of what you could have bought in gold and silver with just $200 a month since 2000 at a price of 10% above spot for all the people who say I never add dealer premiums. And what I've added versus the original video showing how metals have performed against cash in a savings account is now I am showing how it has performed versus the S&P 500, considering a transaction and management fee of a modest 2% paid upon purchase, so a very reasonable and fair analysis in my opinion. And since I think this data is pretty self-explanatory, I will cut to the chase and say that the S&P 500 has done pretty well since 2000. In fact, it just barely edges out gold as the best performer amongst these three, and I can't deny that. But there is a caveat. And I'm going to leave this data up so you can take a closer look at it while I explain what the caveat is. But as I've alluded to before, this market is coming down. In fact, since I made my July 9th video saying that I am selling stocks and buying gold, the S&P 500 is down more than 9% and gold is up 3%. So that's not a bad swing trade if you ask me. And the key question we need to ask is, what is this going to look like 18 to 24 months from now, assuming we don't add anything to our stack or our stock portfolio? So, all amounts being equal, where do I expect prices to be, and what do I think of these three things will be the best performer? Well, in a conservative scenario where silver settles down around $35 an ounce, gold around $2,350 an ounce, and the S&P 500 revisits its October 2022 lows of 3,600, you can see that silver and gold will both have performed significantly better than the S&P 500 over that time period since 2000. 26% better in the case of silver, and 31% better in the case of gold. And why I say this is a conservative scenario is because I have said in the past that the S&P 500 can even go below 3,000. And many analysts are now starting to agree with me as they get more bullish on metals, especially on gold. Now, if you want to experiment with this data and run your own projections, you can do that by joining my Patreon. Link to join is in the description and pinned comment, because tomorrow this entire file and data will be available for you along with my weekly newsletter. You can also see the video I dropped there yesterday talking about what I am seeing on the market at large and the nearly 50 extra exclusive videos I've done on Patreon, with a new one being added each week, with tons of stuff I don't talk about here on the YouTube channel, much of which is forward-looking. So, since this whole video has been a response to questions I've been getting from viewers like you in the comments section, I will not be doing a separate viewer question in this video, but please leave your questions, if you have any, either on this content or, related to other things, in the comments section now. I may just answer it in my next video. And with that said, I want to wish you all a fantastic day ahead. Please remember, take care of yourselves and remember to take care of each other. Tough times are coming, and I think it's very important that we act within our communities to keep everybody afloat. And until the next time I see you all, goodbye.